To get us started. So,
Okay.
welcome to Critical Conversations in Children's Literature, a web series I developed to bring children's literary writers and personnel in conversation with scholars to discuss critical topics brewing within the field. So, my name is LaShawn Daley. I am an assistant professor in the Department of English and Comparative Literature at San Diego State University, and I'm also the director of the Children's Literature Program and the director of the National Center for the Study of Children's Literature. I feel like my titles are so long, I just need to like chop them up. So today's conversation is funded by the College of Arts and Letters here at San Diego State University and is hosted in collaboration with the National Center for the Study of Children's Literature. And so I want to tell you a little bit about today's guest. Okay, so Katia Graham is a reporter turned children's librarian. She has recently launched her small business called Librarian on the Go, where she provides customized youth services to encourage literacy and lifelong learning. Katia, thank you for being on today's web series. Thank you for being today's guest.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Daly.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I want to know, what are you reading? What is Librarian on the Go reading this week?
Oh, Librarian on the Go, can't get enough. Right now, I'm reading What Will My Story Be, which is a beautiful picture book. It is by Nidhi Chinani, and my friend, a fellow librarian, gave it to me when she found out that I was starting Librarian on the Go. I love how librarians support each other, and this book has a really good message about um, finding your story and seeing where your storytelling powers can take you.
I will certainly add it to my list. So, okay, so let's talk about children's librarianship and children's literature a little bit more. So I'm curious, you are a reporter turned children's librarian. What was the switch for you? What education did you need to pursue in order to become a children's librarian?
So you're right. My first career is in journalism. I have a master's in broadcast from Columbia University and worked as a reporter, taught journalism, and started volunteering at my local library. And there are a lot of commonalities with librarianship and journalism. For example, we want to get good quality information into the hands of the public we serve. We believe there's a story for everyone, that everyone has a story to tell. So, I mean, it was a natural fit in many ways. Just this week, I was teaching media literacy workshops at a local elementary school. And the idea behind that is, if you know how to create news, if you can identify key elements, you'll be able to spot good news as an information consumer moving forward. So that empowers kids. To answer your question, in order to become a librarian, or to be hired as a librarian, need a master's in library and information science. I have my degree from USC. And when you're in library school, it's a wonderful opportunity to study the American Library Association's Bill of Rights, ethics. You learn about cataloging, you learn about conducting in depth research, learn all the terms like reader's advisory, and you're really just thinking thoughtfully. My school had a heavy focus on project management and teamwork, which I really appreciated.
Okay, so that's what it takes to become a librarian. But then what happens afterwards? Okay, so you get your master's degree. What are some of the next steps for those of our audience members who actually may be considering thinking about becoming a children's librarian? Like, what were some of the next steps you took to actually become a librarian in a public library?
The advice I always give to people is to volunteer or intern at a library if you can. I did this while I was in library school, and even before. And the best training we all know is hands-on training that you're getting, in the real world. And there's no limit to what volunteers can do. So in my case, I was leading story times. I was shadowing librarians. I was, really, it's a safe space to learn and grow and ask all of your questions. So that's
Mm.
the key. And then you make really good connections that will give you great advice and support when you're ready to apply for the job.
And what were some of your favorite things as a children's librarian in the public library system?
Some of my favorite things. I, as the reporter in me, I love how you keep a pulse on the community as a children's librarian. Every time you're talking to a parent or a kid, you're gathering intel that's going to help you inform what you're doing, inform the books that you're ordering, inform the programs that you're going to be organizing at your library. I loved that community connection, facilitating it, witnessing it, and it's just enchanting to be in the children's department. It's really an honor, especially
Mm.
when you see that kid have that aha moment, like, I found just the right book, or I think I get this reading concept right now.
Yeah, and I also have to admit that I don't realize that the heroes that children's librarians are, especially getting us very invested in reading. I went to my public library all the time, but never really fully understood the labor that children's librarians have to experience because it's not just one child. It's dozens upon dozens on a daily basis, right? And so I love what you just said in terms of understanding what the community needs are, but also understanding what each child needs are, right? To see that child perhaps over and over again and kind of understand what they're looking for. I recently saw some memes about the girl who's always looking for horse books, like how librarians need to be aware of what the kind of community needs are so that they have those books that children are really invested in. And so this particular library is always talking about how anytime they see a book with horses, they know to, they know to order it because there's going to be that girl who comes in who needs all the books on horses, which I thought was really funny.
Yes, be prepared to address random reference requests and embrace that. And it's such a dynamic job. You don't know where the day's going to take you.
Yeah, yeah. That's really great. Okay, so you go from reporter, you go from children's librarian in the public library system, and then you branch out on your own. Tell us a little bit about Librarian on the Go and what made you realize that you would want to kind of start your own small business around your skill sets of being a librarian.
Sure. So, Librarian on the Go is a catalyst to encourage reading and community engagement through outreach librarian services. And it aims to plug in librarianship to what organizations are doing to enhance their offerings, particularly organizations who want to engage families and incorporate literacy into their programming. So I realize there's a big need and a big desire for that. So you could say that is the specialty of Librarian on the Go. And it's wonderful to be able to have vision over what you're doing. So services that Librarian on the Go offers includes story times, customized story times. It includes pop-up reference desks, research. It includes programming, information literacy workshops, and more,
Mm.
consulting.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would just like to ask a few more questions about that because I imagine that there might be other librarians who are thinking, what can I do? Or perhaps even people who have recently graduated, right? Who are thinking about what does it mean to start a small business. So, what was the difference for you being a librarian at a public institution versus what it means to be a librarian owning your own business? Why make that transition? What was it about Librarian on the Go for you that you were so passionate about that you would move away from the public institution and branch out on your own and become basically like a freelance librarian?
Yeah, my heart is still with what public libraries do. So while I can be contracted, the services are free for the public, right? Um, so the public can attend that story time at the Museum of Contemporary Art on the day that admission is free. for the families. One of my clients, City Ballet of San Diego, and we are going to be offering a book and a ballerina program in 27 public library branches starting this month, March. So I saw that there was an avenue to do that. And it's easy as librarians, we're so giving to volunteer. I mean, and give your work away, but I think you need that validation. Like you're offering a valuable service, your time is valuable, what you are doing is valuable, and so being compensated for that is the significance. And
Mm.
as a mom, it's really great for me to be able to have more control over my schedule and be more flexible with that.
And so what I'm hearing too, I think is, I mean, literally it's in the name, right? It's library on the go, but it is bringing the library to people who may not always have access to it and or who don't have access to it in that very moment, right? Like you were just saying in terms of the ballet, like bringing a librarian, basically a library in a library to a place where a library is not. And what does it mean to actually share or co-share spaces that become kind of like little miniature libraries in a different space. I mean, this could happen at a coffee shop, right? This could happen at an opera house, right? This could happen in a home. This could happen in a classroom. But the fact that you're kind of bringing librarian to a space that isn't a library, I think is really interesting. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like what bookmobiles were back in the day,
Mhm.
where bookmobiles and librarians would drive around and basically essentially create little miniature libraries outside of the library space, which I think is really innovative and like,
Thank,
important.
thank you. Yeah. To be a good children's librarian, you have to go out into the community to draw people in. You know, you don't just want to serve the people who are already coming into your library. You want to attract the non-traditional library users. So outreach is something that I really enjoyed, and Librarian on the Go enables me to do that. Ballet classes are expensive. Whose family can afford to put them in ballet class to get them there after school? This City Ballet of San Diego offering is a way to expose kids to the arts, that when if they might not have had that exposure otherwise, free of charge, at their conveniently located public library. And Librarian on the Go, to be honest, it started before I even realized what was going on during the pandemic. I was working as a um, children's librarian at Coronado Public Library at the time, but libraries were closed for programs because of COVID. And we all missed that community connection so much. So I started doing pop up story times at parks throughout San Diego. I was going all over San Diego County. And before I knew it, there'd be 30 people at the story time, 40. And we were masked and spread out, but we were still enjoying story time together. And I started the Librarian on the Go Instagram account to let people know where I was going. So it's something that's been around since 2021, and it became formalized as a business in the fall.
Congratulations. Are we getting a van? Is that the next step? Is there gonna be like, are we gonna see on the highway?
There,
Librarian on the go van?
there, there should be. We are just working on the funds for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, perhaps we're gonna have viewers who are interested in investing in a librarian on the go van so that we can have books and programming and all the things that a librarian would need in the van. Okay, can I ask what have been some of the um let's say hardships and grateful ships. I don't know if grateful ships is a word, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go. What does it mean to kind of like branch out and do this work now in kind of a post-COVID era where there might be changes in literacy? I mean, I know we're talking about this in the classroom all the time. That students have learned differently and are learning differently and are socializing differently. Have there been ways that you've seen um, or experienced like you're still kind of sort of processing how to make this work in a kind of a post, I'm not going to say post-COVID, still current COVID era? And what are some of the things that you're seeing that has actually really been highlighted as a result of the work that you're doing in this current post-COVID era?
Well, my first thought is it's invigorating to be out there again with this renewed sense of appreciation for being able to be in a public space and gather together. I mean, how much did we miss that? And I admittedly notice that preschool story time coming out of the pandemic really turned into toddler story time because there was that regression that kids noticed. You're probably familiar with the study that said kids lost about 2 years of of education and they weren't socializing. Kids learn through play. It's one of the pillars of early literacy. So that is one way that I noticed it for sure. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but with like I was saying, people have a renewed appreciation. So I think they're just happy to get together and go to a program. And I always say, the more you come, the more I'll do. So
Yeah. And what are some of those future plans that you have besides this bookmobile that I've that I've now
okay,
announced?
I have looked into a bibliobike. I'm gonna be in really good shape if I ever get
Yeah. Does that feel like it needs to be a tandem bike where you can like put a bunch of kids on the back too, so that it's like
there.
5 people going through the parks, and then you just sort of kind of pass out books as you go along. That's
Yeah.
so funny, bibliobike. I have not heard of that before, but I can only imagine how cool it would be with a very large basket of books in the front or maybe in the back, depending, I guess, on the
I
neighborhood.
have tested one out
Okay.
and it is possible.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Well, we'll have you back. We'll have you back once this once this bike is in order. Okay, so we talked briefly about the services that you provide, but you also do sort of kind of an à la carte thing. What are some of the ways in which if people who are watching this, who are invested in potentially hiring the services of Librarian on the Go, what can they start thinking about in order to think about how to help them create some sort of programming? Like, what should they be thinking about on their end so that you can best provide the services that you do?
What advice do I have for somebody who wants to
Yeah, who wants to like
involved
get
with
your
Librarian on the
services?
Go?
Yeah, like what should they be thinking about? What kind of ways can they, I don't know, can you help even in the like brainstorming process? Like, do they already have to know exactly what they want and then come to you? Or can they just be like, I want you to come and you help brainstorm? Like, what does a consultation even look like with you?
It's a friendly conversation. I want to see what your needs are, what you're looking for, and ideas, they just happen naturally. So that's where some of the best ideas come about when you least expect them.
Mm.
One of my clients is hands-on technology, and they teach kids coding and all kinds of great things. And they are right now are going to be co-hosting the STEAM Educators Conference at the campus of UCSD Extended Studies. And they have enabled Librarian on the Go to offer scholarships to people who might want to attend that. So you can go, you will be able to network with professionals from Sally Ride Science, Fleet Science Center, STEM ecosystem. So many organizations leave with an actionable plan for STEM to bring to your own youth group. So that's a really cool conference. So if you want to sign up, you can look at my website for the information, and you enter Librarian on the code and you get this amazing value for free. So I would say email me, go to librarianonthego.com if you want information about that or you want to set up a consult.
Yeah. So before we close out, what are some of the ways that people can find you? So you just talked about your website. I will make sure to have something on the screen and or in the description box below.
Thank
What are
you.
some other ways that people can follow and see what you are doing and perhaps get inspired by as well?
Well, there's the social media account. It's most active on Instagram, librarian underscore on the go. Um, on my website, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. And I have a column in the La Jolla Light, and comes out monthly. This month's column was about the printing press because I recently stumbled upon a statue of Johannes Gutenberg when I was on vacation in Strasbourg, France with my family over the holidays. And I thought, even the Bible was controversial
Yeah.
at some point. And with everything going on with banned books, you can read my thoughts on that in the column.
Is there any final word that you would like to give our audience members as we close out today's critical conversation in children's lit?
Keep reading, and there's no limit to what librarians can do. Librarian on the Go is another way to show that this is an incredibly relevant career. And we want more kids to have it on their radar when they're thinking about what they want to be when they grow up. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Librarian on the Go, Katia Graham. So wonderful to have you on today's episode, and I hope to see this bookmobile and this bike-mobile very soon.